Welcome back to the programme. It's 11:30 p.m. here in Paris. Let's remind you of our headlines. Confirmation that Yemen's former president Ali Abdullah Saleh has been killed by Houthi rebels just 2 days after he turned his back on a 3-year alliance with the group. A last-minute no deal as an agreement struck between Theresa May and Jean-Claude Juncker is dashed by May's Northern Irish coalition partners. And the votes have been counted in Honduras, but still no election result, as soldiers withhold the final tally in efforts to calm unrest after allegations of electoral fraud. We'll have an exclusive interview with the candidate who made those allegations. Our top story tonight. Here at France 24, we can confirm that Yemen's former president, Ali Abdullah Saleh, has been killed. His death comes 2 days after he announced the collapse of his alliance with the Iranian-backed Houthis, who say they attacked and killed Saleh earlier today. Yuka Roya takes a look at the difficult relationship between Saleh and the Houthis over the last 5 years.
Switching sides overnight, Ali Abdullah Saleh severed a 5-year alliance with the Houthis and reached out to Saudi Arabia.
We will turn a new page with the coalition and start dealing with them in a positive way, because what happened to Yemen is more than enough.
It was a decision that cost him his life. After being ousted in 2012 in the wake of the Arab Spring, Saleh buried the hatchet with his former enemies, the Houthi rebels. The unlikely allies seized the capital, Sana'a, in 2014, forcing then-President Abdurrahman Mansour Hadi to flee the country. But Saleh's alliance with the Iran-backed fighters angered Tehran's regional nemesis, Saudi Arabia. In March 2015, a Saudi-led coalition launched a military intervention on Houthi-controlled targets. Since then, thousands of airstrikes have left more than 8,000 people dead and some 20 million on the brink of famine. Saleh's decision to jump ship came as a surprise for some, but others saw it as yet another attempt by the former strongman to bide his time.
He has used the Houthis, whom he had fought for during 6 wars in a row, as a tool to restore his control on the country.
The man who once ruled Yemen for 33 years was criticised for staying in power by creating confusion and crisis. But his dangerous balancing act seems to have finally proven untenable.
That report from Yuka Roya. The US Supreme Court has voted to allow the Trump administration to fully enforce a ban on travel to the US by residents of 6 mostly Muslim countries. The justices voted that Trump's travel ban can take full effect, even while legal challenges against it go forward, handing the president a victory. Well, let's go live to our Washington correspondent, Philip Crowther, who's been standing by on that. So, Philip, is that the end of it? Does this mean that the travel ban will definitively come into force now?
That's the right question, because there have been so many moments where this travel ban seemed like it was enforced, then it was challenged by lower courts. There was already a Supreme Court decision on this. And no, this is not the very final decision. For now, this is a decision from the highest court of the land, from the Supreme Court. But this decision will be in place pending appeals, because there are still challenges in lower federal courts happening right now. What we read, though, from the Supreme Court justices today was that they want these lower federal courts to come up with decisions as quickly as possible, so that we will finally have a little bit of closure on this matter, I suppose, because this is the 3rd travel ban that had been put in place by the Trump administration, and this is the one that, according to the Supreme Court, for now, is allowed to go into effect. This means that there would be a ban for citizens from 6 Muslim-majority countries and 2 other countries, those being North Korea and Venezuela. Those were already in place for those 2 countries. 6 Muslim-majority countries countries would be added to that right now. Those countries being Chad, Iran, Libya, Yemen, Somalia, Syria, and North Korea and Venezuela, as I just mentioned. So that is a big success for the Trump administration. We're still waiting for a response from the White House, but the Donald Trump campaign, yes, the campaign has already come out with a statement applauding this decision. It is saying that this had always been a ban that was for the security and the safety of the American people.
Philip Crowther, thank you very much for that update, and I'm sure we'll be coming back to Philip as and when we get more information on that. Now, the chairman of Swiss-French cement company LafargeHolcim says it should have stopped its operations in Syria before it did. 3 of its executives have since been charged with indirectly financing jihadists as a result of the company's operations in the war-torn country. Well, Robert Sutton-Mattox has more.
There were days when LafargeHolcim was known for supplying the sand for Paris's popular summertime urban beaches. Now its name is in the press for all the wrong reasons, and its chairman says its reputation is suffering. In the French newspaper Le Figaro on Sunday, the company's chairman Beat Hess said that unacceptable errors were made, which the company regrets and condemns. His words referred to the current court case involving 3 former Lafarge executives who have been put under investigation for indirectly financing terrorism. Frédéric Jolibois, who was director of the Syrian plant from 2014, faces charges for financing terrorism and violating an EU embargo on Syrian oil. Bruno Péchot, Jolibois' predecessor as director between 2008 and 2014, and Lafarge security boss Jean-Claude Villard also face charges. Lafarge is accused of paying jihadist organisations, including the Islamic State group, in order to allow the company's factory in Jalabiyah in northern Syria to continue to operate. Bruno Péchot also faces charges for endangering the lives of others. The employees say they had no choice but to obey orders.
Lafarge forced us to go to work despite the risks.
The former director of the plant has already confirmed payments to a middleman who, after taking substantial commission, handed the rest over to the Islamic State group. Payments before commission of up to $100,000 per month. The chairman, Beat Hess, added on Sunday that LafargeHolcim probably pulled out of Syria too late, a decision that years later has put the company's reputation on the line.
An agreement struck between Britain and the EU to move to the next phase of Brexit talks has been dashed by a last-minute disagreement over the Irish border. Jean-Claude Juncker and Theresa May seemed to have made progress in a crucial day of negotiations, but a phone call from the Prime Minister, the British Prime Minister, to her Conservative coalition partner in Northern Ireland put an end to all that. Well, earlier I spoke to our UK correspondent Bénédicte Paviot and I asked her what happened to that deal.
What happened is that everybody was marched up a hill and then everybody had to be marched down a hill. So what actually happened is that Theresa May, the British Prime Minister, went to Brussels to meet over lunch with her chief negotiator, Mr. David Davis, the Brexit minister, with President Juncker. And the point was that there were lots of noises coming out of Brussels, coming out of the Republic of Ireland, increasingly so at about midday, then 1 o'clock London time, that there was an agreement, that there was a deal. So a deal that would be, if you want, the end of the beginning, if we can call it that, and the end of phase 1, the phase 1 that would then allow the UK and the 27 to move forward to trade talks. But it seems that although there was a 2:30 p.m. press conference that was then announced by the Irish Prime Minister, in between that, Arlene Foster, the leader of the DUP, the small Northern Ireland party, the Unionist Party, gave first a press conference where they were saying the UK is leaving as one. There is no question that Northern Ireland should have a different treatment, a different status, i.e., for example, be part of the single market, when the rest of the United Kingdom is not going to be. So it's all about one of the 3 main topics of negotiation and consultations, and it's about the Irish border. And of course, the Irish Prime Minister's press conference was then cancelled. And it seems that Arlene Foster then spoke to Theresa May, and Theresa May, who'd left Mr. Juncker for a few moments, went back into the room and said, actually, with a grim face, there's no deal. Now, what I should point out briefly is that during a press conference then, a very delayed press conference, President Juncker and Theresa May both came out saying, yes, there's no deal. So effectively, the talks have failed today. They didn't say that. I'm paraphrasing. They were both confident that talks will resume in the coming days and that a deal will be found, a deal will be struck.
Our UK correspondent Bénédicte Paviot there. Now, Catalonia's leader has attended an extradition hearing in Belgium, where he fled back in October. Spain wants Carles Puigdemont and 4 of his foreign ministers sent back to face charges over their role in the independence movement. Wassim Cornet reports.
The Belgian justice system will have the final word on the fate of former Catalan President Carles Puigdemont and several other cabinet members. On Monday, his lawyers said they had pleaded against extradition because the charges the politicians are facing are not punishable under Belgian law. The lawyers said a ruling would come within the next few days.
The judge will deliberate further on it, meaning that he will reflect on the arguments and announce his decision on December the 14th.
Meanwhile, the Spanish Supreme Court announced its decision to keep 4 prominent Catalan politicians in jail on Monday, 1 month after they were arrested on charges of sedition. Former Catalan Vice President Oriol Junqueras, former Catalan Interior Minister Joaquim Forn here on the left, as well as 2 leaders of Catalan separatist groups were denied bail by the Spanish Supreme Court. The court ordered the release of 6 other members of the region's former cabinet. Junqueras and Forn appeared in court on Friday, just days after their lawyers said the pair would abide by Spanish law and renounce unilateral independence for Catalonia. In a statement, the Spanish Supreme Court said it remains to be seen whether those commitments were truthful and real. The court also said that despite not seeing the prisoners as flight risks, they may engage in, quote, criminal campaigning for the regional election which will be held on December 21st. The Catalan election was called after the government was disbanded following an independence referendum in October. Polls for this month's election show that support for independence is running neck and neck with support for Spanish unity.
And campaigning for those all-important local elections begins at midnight. That's in 20 minutes' time. Now, police in Malta have arrested 10 suspects over the murder of an investigative journalist nearly 2 months ago. Daphne Caruana Galizia was killed by a powerful car bomb near her home. She was investigating corruption, as Wassim Cornet explains.
A major sign of progress in the investigation into Daphne Caruana Galizia's murder. 10 Maltese citizens were arrested Monday morning by police trying to find the people behind the October 16th car bombing, which killed the journalist. In a news conference, Maltese Prime Minister Joseph Muscat said they had been arrested due to a, quote, reasonable suspicion over involvement in the assassination of Caruana Galizia.
The operation was carried out by the police corps, the armed forces of Malta, and our security services, and was the result of investigations that were carried out over the past few weeks.
Muscat also declined to give more details on the arrests because of fears that leaks could stall a possible prosecution. Under Maltese law, investigators have 48 hours to decide on whether to press charges. Daphne Caruana Galizia was killed in October when a bomb placed in her car exploded. Her reporting was heavily focused on political corruption and scandals in Malta. She had also reported on Maltese mobsters and drug trafficking.
Only emerged in the past week.
Well, she may not be an official First Lady, but the wife of France's president has stepped out of the shadows and attended her first official engagement. And Brigitte Macron's first task was panda diplomacy. Yep, she was baptising the first panda cub to be born in France as part of a deal with China, which loaned the panda's mother. Brigitte Macron said she was very touched to have been given such a great responsibility, but I think it was the panda doing the touching. It seems that baby panda may not have shared the sentiment. Well, let's hope that the panda's bark is worse than its bite. And it's time now for sports. Kete van Gorgestani joins me in the studio. Hi, Ket.
Hello.
And we're starting with football tonight. The Champions League group stages are coming to an end this week. Some of the teams there are still fighting to reach the last 16. Others are looking to finish top of their group, like Chelsea.
Yes, that's the case for Chelsea. The Blues were already guaranteed a spot in the knockout